Hi, I'm Joe McCambley. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Saatva. We make luxury mattresses. We don't fold them. We deliver them to your bed, your home whole. Take away your old bed. It's kind of a white glove experience. About 2 years ago, during the Paris Olympics, there was a report that athletes were struggling with the beds at the Olympic Village. And our CEO wrote to me and he said, and to our COO, and he said, what can we do about this? And we said, well, nothing. The games are happening. They're in Paris. We don't have a license to ship our beds there. And he said, this can never happen to an American athlete again. So we recently became a partner of the U.S. Olympic Organizing Committee. And for the 2028 games, we'll supply 10,000 beds to every Olympic athlete that attends the games in Los Angeles so that we can make sure that they're the best games possible. So we are the official restorative sleep partner of Team USA. Yeah, I had to admit something. When that song was playing, the Beastie Boys song, I had originally intended to come up here, and when I was going to break into the robot, and I was doing it with my wife this morning. We had some friends in a room, and my wife said, and she's an awful person, and she said, you know, you go through life mostly minus any sense of dignity. Why would you get up on a stage and remove any dignity you have by dancing the robot? And so I'm a little bit off my game. Anyway.
Do it! Do it!
You know, she also said, they will tell you to do it, and you may not do it. But the one thing that might get me to do it is if the audience participated. Any takers? I'm looking at you, Purple. Any takers to dance the robot with me? Mike, will you do it? Come on up on stage. Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. So nobody's going to do it. We're going to do it with you. All right. Yes. Now, I think everybody should stand up, though, because I'd like to give you...
The wheels have fallen off.
We have some steps we're going to do. Okay. Is that okay? Now, you guys probably know the robot, so you can do your own version. But for those of you who don't, could you stand up for me, please? Just everybody stand up. Come on. I'm going to give you a basic lesson in the robot. And this is what we're going to do. And I suck, so nobody's going to look worse than me. So you kind of want to relax, not too much because you're a robot, right? Get your elbows close to your side. Bring up your hand. Keep your elbows still. Move your elbow out. Bring up your hand. Move your elbow out. Same on the left. Bring up your hand. Move your elbow out. Bring up your hand. Move your elbow out. Here's where it's going to get tricky. Then you want to turn your hands around. And if you have your purple mattress, you want to squeeze it for 4 beats. And then, because we don't want to cede all control over the robots, we want to show we can be human, we're going to add a human element. We're just going to do this. We're going to do this. And then we're going to give a media post welcome to our first-time purple visitors. Can we do that? Yeah. All right, here we go. Ready? Hand up, elbow up, hand up, elbow up, hand up, elbow up, hand up, elbow up. Turn your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. We did it! Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. Do you know the song? What is it? Let the bodies on the floor? She does karaoke to that. I'm not lying. Oh, wait a second. So I remember when I became an AI optimist. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I read a book by Isaac Asimov. And in the book, there was a little girl named Gloria. And she was kind of lonely. And her parents, you know, they lived on a remote planet. And her parents were concerned about her, so they purchased a robot. And the robot's name was Robbie. It was Isaac Asimov's first robot novel. And in this book, Robbie is dedicated to Gloria's happiness. He has infinite patience for her. They play hide and seek all day long, 8 hours a day. He's responsible for teaching her. He has infinite patience with her. He never gets tired of trying to make her happy. But the neighbors are upset that they have a robot because people are afraid of robots, so the mom has the robot returned. Later, The dad takes Gloria to a visit to the factory. The robot saves Gloria from being hit by a forklift truck. Happy end of the story. And that's how most of Isaac Asimov's robot stories end. Because in his novels, he incorporated 3 laws into the robot's positonic brain. First law of robotics is robots may not harm humans or through inaction allow a human to come to harm. Pretty simple, right? We all wish that for the AI that's being developed today. The second rule, robots must obey human orders provided they do not conflict with the first law. So you can't tell a robot to kill another human being. It's not allowed to harm human beings. And then finally, robots must protect their own existence as long as this does not conflict with laws 1 and 2. So if a robot, in an effort to save itself, causes humans to die, that's not allowed. The robot has to give up its life. And every one of his novels involved some sort of conflict. So for instance, in one of his novels called The Runaround, or a short story, there are 2 scientists on Mercury. And it's about to become daylight on Mercury. Their station that they're in is out of air conditioning, or I forget the exact nature, so they have to send a robot out to get selenium, which is about 2 kilometers away. So they say to the robot, go get selenium, we need it for our battery packs so we can have air conditioning here. They send the robot out. It's an experimental robot. So it's the third law is, because it was being sent to Mercury, the third law was probably a little bit stronger than the other 2 laws. So when the scientist gave the robot the prompt, go get the selenium, the robot goes out to the selenium, and near the selenium is a source of radioactivity. So as the robot gets close to the selenium, it stops because it doesn't want to harm itself. The third law is really strong. But it had a prompt from the scientist to get the selenium. So the robot turns away to get away from the radioactivity, and then a second law takes effect. He goes back toward the selenium, and in this book, he ends up doing this doom loop around the selenium, about a half a mile away from it. So the scientist has to put on a spacesuit and go out there and risk his life so that the first law takes precedence for the robot saves the scientist. It was the first time, I didn't know it, but the first exposure I ever had to a weak prompt. And the other thing that happened in this novel is, as the robot was circling the selenium, it was singing Gilbert and Sullivan songs. This is true from the book. So not only was it a story about a weak prompt, it was also about an artificial intelligence hallucinating because of the weak prompt. And I just think that's fascinating today, that every one of Isaac Asimov's robot novels explores the laws of robotics, and then the conflict, no matter how strong they might be, no matter how well you write them, it's tough. Then in the 90s, I saw this.
Okay, that's good. Up high. 5 low. Too slow. No, I'm just kidding. Let's try it one more time. Good. Now try. Good. Now do me. Give me a 5.
Watching John with the machine, it was suddenly so clear. The Terminator would never stop. It would never leave him. And it would never hurt him, never shout at him or get drunk and hit him or say it was too busy to spend time with him. It would always be there, and it would die to protect him.
Sarah's definitely an AI optimist. What she leaves out is that the Terminator would kill every other human being in existence to save John from dying. Good laws of robotics, but so there's always going to be conflict where AI is concerned. So this presentation is about how we use AI to help us teach, help us speak more human. You heard about this, or heard of this with the Chamberlain Group yesterday. The nature of search, if you're in the mattress business, you're doing a lot of non-branded searches. So it used to be, up until recently, there were 3 terms that probably covered 80% of all your searches. Mattress, and then best mattress whatever year you're in, 2026. Today, people are saying, I weigh 250 pounds and I'm a side sleeper and I'm always hot. My wife sleeps on her back, she's always cold. I have low back pain and my wife snores. How do I figure out the right bed for the 2 of us? Do we need a sleep divorce? It's kind of a conversation I had last night with some of you, right? So the nature of search is changing. So how do people get their answers to questions like this? If you look at a typical website, this is our product page. This is what it looks like. Think of the question that that person asked and what the consumer is seeing on our product page. And for years, as we've built websites, we've always told ourselves, you know, humans don't scroll. You got to put everything you want to put on the page above the fold, but then you don't want to put too many words above the fold. So we've all gotten into this trap of having an information deficit on our websites, even us. Then search engines, you know, humans see the presentation layer of a site. Search engines look at the meta layer. And the meta layer, you know, there's a lot of code that you'll see if you view code on your web pages, but it's pretty thin. It's kind of telling the search engines enough information to place an ad in front of the consumer when they do a search. And then finally, there's what you call schema. This is the language that machines read. If you view code on your web page, you'll see that there's a bunch of code and a bunch of schema, and that's what machines are looking at. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a technologist, so if you've written a book about AI, you're probably going to find a lot of things to criticize about what I'm saying here. I'm just trying to do some basic concepts because that's basically what I can understand. But this is what machines are looking for. And about 2 years ago, I read an article by a guy named Andy Crestodina, who is he's a founder of a company called Orbit Media in Chicago. And he's done a lot of writing about AI search and what works with AI search. And he was the first one, when I read 2 years ago, who said, you know, you've got to pack your schema with every FAQ a person might ask about your beds. You've got to have all your product details in the schema. And then you have to pack your schema with all the reviews that people have written. Even if you have 20,000 reviews, they have to be in your schema. And your schema has to match what you say on your website, because the schema and the website in combination form a trust layer for AI. If there's dissonance, if you say something in the schema that the AI doesn't recognize on your site, it doesn't know if it can trust what you're saying, because you control both, right? So we know where the answers are found. They're found in the schema, they're found in the meta layer, they're found on sites. But how do we know what people are asking? So if you go to a place like the Wirecutter, AI today, you know, although we have a lot of information on our site that we would hope AI would trust, AI really doesn't trust brands as much as it trusts sites like the Wirecutter. So the Wirecutter is a review site. They review products, and they review mattresses. So when AI search is looking for information about Saatva, they're going to trust the Wirecutter more than they trust us. And the Wirecutter gives us really good reviews, thank God. Then AI might look at Reddit. Reddit doesn't do so nice with us. So I started sleeping on my concrete floor instead of my Saatva. Before Saatva, no back pain. Now, L1, L5, disaster. So there's areas that we cannot concern or control that AI is looking at. And then we also have our blog. This is one place where we do control. So our blog has about 1,500 articles. The mission is to answer every question a person might have about mattresses, sleep, and sleep health. And we just load it up with helpful information about how to choose the right bed. So people look at your site to get information. Machines look at your schema. Machines look at review sites. They trust review sites. Machines look at Reddit. They trust Reddit. To a certain extent, they trust our blog. So our share of voice in AI search right now, you know, you'll get different answers if you look at 20 or 30 different AI search analyzers, but we're up around 60% share of voice. So we're doing really, really well. And of that, probably 15% of the time our blog features prominently. So we're pleased that some of the content that we're creating is trusted by search engines, but by and large, they're getting that information from elsewhere. So now we know where the search engines are, and AI search is getting information about brands. But what we never really knew is what are exactly the questions people are asking. You know, we have retail stores. People come in and they ask our sales reps questions, but they're not writing them down. They're not entering them into a database, or we're not keeping track of them at all. But what we do have is we do a good percentage of our sales over the phone. So looking back at the fourth quarter of last year, we took about 50,000 calls where people identified, we knew that they were interested in buying. It wasn't a customer service problem. We looked at about 85,000 calls that were customer service problems for a total of 135,000 calls. Knowing how much damage bad prompts can do, we did a pretty good job, I think, of trying to tell, and we tried to tell the AI, as it transcribed our phone calls, what we wanted it to look for. So the first thing we said is, if people talk about why they need a mattress, if they talk about their category entry point, I'm moving, I have sore back, something like that, make a note of that, aggregate that content. Then for every category entry point, what are the questions they ask about that? I'm moving to a new home, I've got 3 bedrooms now, it's gonna have 5 bedrooms, I want to get 2 extra beds, but they're for guests. They're not going to be slept on that much, so they don't have to be a high-end mattress. How do I get something that's right for my guests? That's a long-ass question, but they're asking those things, right? So for every category entry point, what are the long-ass questions that people are asking? And then we use those questions to inform what are the answers that we're going to put into our schema. We have to put the questions and the answers, the frequently asked questions, into our schema. Also, the questions they're asking, usually you're answering the questions with product information, so that informs all the information about your product that you're going to put into your schema. And then, of course, you've got separate sources of review information that you can flow into your schema. So that's the first thing we told the AI. The second thing we said is we want you to look for keywords. Why are they shopping? So back pain, new home, guest room. What do they want in a bed? I want a firm bed. I want a plush bed. I want an innerspring. I don't want a memory foam. What brands are they talking about? I heard great things about Purple. How does this compare to Sleep Number? I have a Casper now. Is this as good as a Casper? Then there's things like price and logistics. You know, I've got about $2,000 that I'm willing to spend. Do you have a bed that falls within, $2,000? And then after the sale, we're getting questions like, where's my order, damn it? You told me I was going to get it in 2 weeks and I don't have it yet. Or, you know what? This isn't what I thought it would be. I want to exchange it. So we had them ask all those questions. And then we told it what not to do. We said, when we query you, you can only give us facts that are from the corpus of calls that you have. You can't go out on the web. We actually put it in a box. You can't make anything up. You have to report raw counts. So if we ask you a question about competitors, we want you to tell us how many calls mention competitors. Of those calls that mention competitors, what percentage mention Tempur-Pedic? What percentage mention Purple? What percentage mention Stearns & Foster? We said we want you to flag the differences that are significant. So if the vast majority of people talk about Tempur-Pedic and not many people are talking about wink beds or something like that, we want you to tell us the statistical significance, the difference between those answers. How many standard deviations from the mean does Tempur-Pedic fall versus, say, everybody else? And then finally, if you can't get an answer based on the data, if it's not actually in the database, then tell me. Just don't answer the question. Just tell me you can't answer it. So we did that, and what we found out is that about 14% of the calls that we get are about pain. And pain actually is a stronger reason for people to call Saatva. This may not be true for Purple, it may not be true for other brands, but for Saatva, for a variety of reasons, a lot of people talk about pain when they first call us, and more people talk about pain than the age of the mattress or the reason, I want to get a more expensive mattress because I think it's better for my back, or the exchanges and because they're furnishing a new home. Pain is like the dominant reason people call us. And then we asked, because we were writing the schema, in their own words, tell us what people say about pain, or the questions they ask about pain, or about moving, or about pricing, and rank order them for us. And I removed some of the data here, but for all of these questions, we have how many times was this question asked, what percentage of the whole is it? So does it help with back pain? What's the best product you have for back pain? What do you recommend for back pain? I have lower back pain. Do you have anything for that? Now, we're going to answer these questions the same way a lot of the times, but we want the questions in the schema. We also want the questions on our website. So from a website architecture standpoint, how do you make sure that every question a consumer might ask about your beds? Or using the data from the AI, the 80-20 rule. how do you make sure that you're incorporating 80% of the questions that consumers are asking in their own language on your website? And so that's a big issue, right? So here's how we answer. We typically, on the calls, we answer, lumber zone technology and dual coil construction, and we talk about high density support for larger body types and stuff like that. As we learned from the Chamberlain group, nobody cares about this shit. Nobody understands what it even means, right? So we identified that kind of a disconnect. So where we talk about, coil counts by size and fiberglass and flame retardants and mattress weights and heights, they want to know, will it be firm enough for me? Is it good for side sleepers? Does it sleep hot? Their questions are all in English, and we need to answer their questions in English. So at Saatva, we have 3 pillars of our brand, and one of the things that we identified about our brand, and this goes back to about 2015, is that we found that our call reps that are answering the phone, they would do little things for consumers that were kind of unexpected. They would send them thank you notes, long handwritten thank you notes. If they knew that you had a dog, they would send you dog treats and stuff like that. It wasn't 100% of the time, but there was a prevalence of Saatva employees doing something nice for people. So one of our brand pillars is what we call a lagniappe. So it's from Louisiana, Creole. If you go into a restaurant there, if you're from New York, it's like a baker's dozen. You order a dozen donuts, and they give you 13. Just a little one because. It's not going to get you to buy, but because you buy, they want to do something nice for you. So that's kind of one of the hallmarks of a really good Saatva employee. And when when we're doing projects internally, we don't often say it out loud, but what's often unsaid is, where's the lagniappe in what you're showing me? So if somebody's showing me a data report, there's always like something extra that I didn't ask for that is kind of delightful. So I wanted to do that for Purple. And my first question to the database was, why the hell would anybody choose Purple over Saatva? And then what I tend to do is I have Claude write my prompts for the AI. The AI consists of Gemini Enterprise. So when I told that question to Claude was like, I'm paraphrasing, that would really suck for you to say that. So instead I said, when people call and they express that they are either own a Purple or are interested in a Purple, how do they differ? So what we learned is that when somebody owns a Purple, they're more concerned about firmness or comfort when they call than they are about price. Look at the difference there. When they don't own a Purple, they're less concerned about firmness and comfort and much more concerned about price. Remember, they're talking to us, so like they're asking us, are you more expensive than a Purple? Because I'm not looking to spend too much more money. But I think there's a branding lesson here because Purple does such a good job of talking about this and conditioning people that they're a tech-forward brand versus many of the others, so that if you own a Purple, you identify that with a good mattress, and you're not willing to give that up when you go and search for a new mattress. If you don't own a Purple, you probably have heard about that, which is why materials and construction is so important. That's probably what brought you to the brand, but you're still kind of concerned about price. So for an existing Purple owner, they're, I think I've beaten a dead horse already, so. And then I wondered, because does this hold across brands? And so I asked the AI, whenever a caller mentions a competing brand, what do they care about most? And if they're considering a competing brand but they don't own it, what do they care about? So for people that own a competitor brand when they call us, they're more interested in firmness and comfort, less interested in price. As long as I get what I have now, I'm willing to pay a little bit more. But if they're considering a competitor mattress and they haven't been habituated to knowing what they'll get out of that mattress, they're going to be more interested in price. I'm going to skip this because I'm running out of time. You might be interested in what this cost us. We spent about $50,000. It was a 7-week project. We had one partner on the outside. They're called Abstract in Los Angeles. And today, we're about 4 statements of work into it with them. And what we're working on now is, Mike, I hope I can have an extra minute, sorry. But we've identified that there's a relationship with upper funnel activity, money we spend in the upper funnel, and downstream impacts. So it's a big duh, but the more TV impressions you have, the more likely people are to search for you by name. The more people search for you by name, the more likely you are to see your market share go up. The higher your unaided awareness, the more people are likely to come to your site directly, as opposed to having to do a non-branded search or branded search, so you don't have to pay for that. So we have about 13 or 14 downstream effects, and they're highly significant for us. So there's three metrics we look for. So think of a independent variable is TV impressions, dependent is branded search. What's the R-squared value of that? And for us, R-squared value means how much of the movement in branded search can be explained by movement in TV impressions. And so we're looking for those relationships. What of the dependent variable can be explained by the independent? And then there's a correlation. Are they moving together in the same direction? And then how strong is that correlation? So are TV impressions strongly correlated to branded search, or is it a weak signal? And then we look at p-value. What's the likelihood that this could happen by mistake? We have all these relationships that we've seen within our database, literally going back to 2009. And what we're trying to do now is use an AI. Like, for instance, we know that the R-squared value between a TV impression running today and branded search, there's an immediate hit. And the R-squared value, I'm going to make a number up, say it's 40%. And then in month 3 or 4, the R-squared value is 45%. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. In month 8, it's 50%. So the correlation, that R-squared value, is getting stronger and stronger and stronger over time. But when you're putting together a budget or a forecast for revenue, it's hard to understand how do those impressions that ran 8 months ago, how are they affecting revenue today? And how will the impressions I'm running today affect our business in 8 months? And so my hope is if I get invited back to MediaPost in a year, that's what I'll be presenting at the next conference. Thank you.
But do it.
I think we have time. Oh.
No, I was going to say don't hold back. But yes, we have time for a question or two. So please.
Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long, everybody.
Hey, the robot. You can't hurry art.
No.
You can't hurry art. Any questions for Joe? Don't be shy, or we'll make you do the robot again solo.
Thank you.
You got one right here? Oh shit.
No, more of a validation. Yeah, Jason Purple. Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Just a validation. I mean, I think we do something similar with, a different vendor for recording of all transcripts, chats, emails. The amount of data we've been able to get from that has been absolutely fascinating. So if anyone's able to do that and you're not, I would back up Joe on this. It's a kick-ass tool.
All right.
Right there.
Sorry. Reem from Locala. Great presentation. You're an amazing storyteller.
Thank you.
Question about, because the presentation yesterday from Purple, they mentioned how important the store experience was to get people into the store, try the mattresses.
Yeah.
Do you do something similar with Saatva, or do you focus mostly on the big sponsorships? You mentioned the Olympics. So how does the store experience go into your marketing strategy? Thank you.
It's a huge unlock for us because, like they said, Purple folks said yesterday, 70 to 75% of the consumers won't buy a mattress unless they can try it. So for us, in any market where we open up a store, it expands our market tremendously. But what we try to do is a little bit different from others. We try to focus on getting people to the site so they can get an education. Like I said, we have that blog that has so much content. So we try to put it in front of people so that when they come into the store, when they call on the phone, they kind of have an idea of what they're looking for already. So the close rate is much higher because we're employing a lot of humans there. So we want to make sure we're using their time as efficiently as we can. So we try not to send uneducated consumers into the store if we can avoid it. Quick answer to a complicated. Yeah.
Hi, Lewis from Toomey. I wanted to ask, for the call transcription kind of like exercise that you did it require any sort of like consumer opt-in or consent rather in order to do that?
No. everything had to be completely anonymized before anything went in front of, say, somebody at Saatva. So I didn't put that in as one of the prompts, but that was definitely one of the prompts. Yeah. All right.
All right, big
Great,
round of
Roddy, very
applause for
much.
Joe.